telling my SIL she's no longer invited in our house? I F27 and my husband M27 got married a year back. We had been dating for 10 years and most of his family knew about us. I went to his sister's wedding because I was invited and it was a nice experience. I have grown up to be very social and career-oriented and really value education. My husband is the same and that's how we really connected with each other. My SIL, however, has a different mindset. She got married at a very young age and chose to have a family. She has one daughter, and chose to not pursue a college degree, however is a total brat and has always been said yes for everything. For context, she had a 3-day wedding in Italy with 120 guests. She doesn't hate me but doesn't love me either and the feelings are mutual. We just don't connect. We recently took a new house and threw a housewarming for all his family and everyone loved the house. We have an extra guest bedroom, just in case. His sister absolutely loved the house, which she said like 50 times, and said she would move some of her daughter's stuff here, in the extra room, because we have too much space and she doesn't want to carry it whenever she comes. We live in New York and she comes from New Mexico. I really didn't get the logic and politely declined and said we have a lot of guests coming every now and then and do not have spare space for your daughter's clothes or toys. She wasn't happy but I didn't care. It's been 4 months since we bought the house and she's come a total of 53 days, yes I counted. Most of the time she comes unannounced and says I was visiting someone or I was in the neighborhood. What kind of person would fly from New Mexico to New York to be in the neighborhood? Anyway, slowly I realized she had started putting up her pictures and redecorating our guest bedroom and lost my shit. I told my husband and he said I'm overthinking and she's just trying to be friends with me. When she left last week, I packed a box of all her things which she very conveniently forgets in our guest bedroom and shipped it to her place. She got very angry and called me and started screaming at me. I told her to stop overreacting and stop considering our house as hers and that she's no longer welcome. I told my husband everything and that I would not entertain her anymore. He agreed to what I said and told his sister that she needs to stop doing this or she's no longer welcome. She called my in-laws and literally every person we know and told them we were being like a holes. Our phones have been buzzing with texts and calls saying how inconsiderate we are and that what we did was wrong. I told everyone if you're so interested, keep her in your house and stop bothering me. Comment 1. NTA. She left behind a lot of things including pictures and thought that was fine. Plus she kept showing up unannounced from New Mexico which is not close. Very weird behavior. You are right to tell any family members who are giving you a hard time that they are welcome to let her come rearrange their homes instead. This is a hill to die on. Comment 2. NTA, this is your house and your boundary is that guests are welcome as long as they behave as guests. This is not her house. I would set the additional boundary that only guests who provide notice of their visit are welcome. You can always bend that as needed, but setting the boundary that she isn't welcome unannounced couldn't hurt. Comment 3. NTA, she's trying to slowly move in. Dropping the hint about her daughter's stuff, the fact she's been in your house nearly 2 out of the 4 months you've been there, flying across the country for a visit, that's not normal. She's very clearly trying to insert herself so that eventually she can say well I have all my stuff here anyway and I'm always here so I might as well just move in. Shipping her stuff back to her is amazing and your husband is either blind or doesn't care about her silently moving in. I would also check and see what story she told your eels and other people. She may have exaggerated or lied to gain sympathy. Putting my family before MIL after the death of her husband? Mill's husband passed, he has been in hospice care for about 3 years. This man is not someone either my wife, 39F, or I, 46M, have many good feelings about. To my wife, he was the 4th man that her mom was married to. To me he was the ex-felon, racist, chain-smoking redneck who has been manipulative and mostly a dick to me since I met my wife, 11 years. Mill has missed a large part of her grandchildren's first few years because she was his primary caregiver during hospice. We are relieved that he is now finally out of the picture. I am so relieved that this man no longer has the ability to be an influence on my children. However, both of us do very much care for Mill and her well-being, and she loved this man, and so she will need support. She lives 3 hours away in another state. We are a family of 4. My wife and I work full-time and have a 14-mo daughter and 3-yo son. My wife is wanting to go up there for the whole next week to be there for her mother. I cannot go, period. My vacation time is used up. My salary is entirely commission. If I am not here selling work, then we don't make money, and I bring home the larger portion of our income. My wife has a more traditional salaried job and does have available PTO as well as bereavement time. My job does not give me any of that. Don't work in the automotive dealership service world, kids. I have watched our kids by myself before, but not for such a long period of time. My job is Monday to Saturday 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. I would have to get both kids dressed and out the door by 6:45, which I already do. Wife leaves at 5:30, also have them picked up by 7 p.m. in the evenings, and then make dinners, get them ready for bed and asleep. Throw in the cooking, laundry, and grocery shopping. My wife has offered to take the kids with her, but I would rather them not miss a week of their normal routine for this circumstance. Mill is a smoker as well, and there is that. We have other family members on my side that might be able to come help me during this week, but none of that has been confirmed yet. I am of the opinion that Mill knows what it is like to be a mother and what it's like to try to raise a family and work, and I feel like it is not the best plan for my wife to put her family on hold for a whole week to go up there and hang out with her mom while she goes through this. Therefore, I suggested that my wife just go up for the weekend. My wife thinks I am being insensitive. Mill has not asked for anything. Comment 1. YTA. Sounds like your wife is making her mom a priority and you feel threatened by that. All feelings aside about your former Phil, this is a woman who raised her own family and dealt with a controlling spouse who she then took care in hospice. She deserves to see her family, and your wife is trying to work with you to not disrupt the family routine, and you're creating barriers. Mill is most likely perfectly fine with seeing you all around the holidays or at a time when it's more conducive to your family schedule, but since the loss is fresh, emotional support goes a long way. Comment 2. YTA, the mother lost her love, she needs support. The wife is offering to take the kids and do everything to make it convenient to you, but you insist she won't. Also, never looked after your kids for extended periods of times? They are your kids. It's something you should do as part of parenting. Comment 3. YTA, your wife may have not had great feelings about her stepdad, but she still cares for her mum, who is grieving. Learn to parent your kids. You shouldn't be doing anything that you haven't done before. It's not easy, but you can manage while your wife is away, like she would if you had to go. Accepting my Mill's offer during my first trimester? I, F31, and my husband, M32, are expecting. I'm trying to be vague in case my family runs across this. I'm in my first trimester and it's very early on. I'm so sick all the time. I've been diagnosed with HG and I've been hospitalized once already. We don't live close to either of our families, we live abroad and both families live in different countries, so there are 3 countries at play here. A couple of weeks ago, my Mill called to check in on me and said that if I felt up to the travel, she'd be delighted to host me at their home until I felt better. No strings attached. They have a large estate and a private chef who had already agreed to work with whatever my doctors suggested or I craved. I could rest as much as I wanted and would hardly need to lift a finger. It was her hope that I would consider it and come for a visit that would let me rest. My own mother also offered to let me come visit her for as long as I need to. Side note, my husband and I have a very nice place and it's safe and comfortable, but my husband also travels a lot for work, so staying elsewhere would be really nice while he's traveling. My parents also have a large and nice estate, but it's closer to a tourist-type location. While I could spend my morning in the gardens at my in-laws, I'd be quite a bit warmer and feeling on display by my family if I were to stay with them. I just know that they'd be wanting to go out all the time and I'd be expected to go with them. I can barely turn my head or sip water without getting sick on my worst days, though. In the end, I chose to go to my Mills home and it has so far been so restorative. Very calm and easy and quiet. Mill checks in on me and I feel so cared for here that it's been very relaxing. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. Baby and I are doing so much better since we got here. My mother and sisters, though, are angry and saying that I spit in their faces by declining their offer to host me in my home country. They say that a pregnant woman should always choose her family to cling to during pregnancy because only they know how it's like for the women in our family and can offer specialized advice and care. Comment 1. NTA. What you needed was to relax, stay calm, and not be expected to do a ton of family stuff when you can barely keep food down. You did what was best for you and the tiny human you are growing, and I get that your family feels slighted, but it wasn't about them, it's about what you and baby needed. Perhaps you can visit them sometime during your pregnancy if you feel more up to it or have them visit. But you know them, and if it'll stress you out more, best to err on the side of caution. Comment 2. NTA. Your family is jealous you didn't pick them. There's really nothing wrong with being jealous that your own child didn't pick mom to make her feel better. Where they turn into ours is accusing you of spitting in their face and attempting to make you feel bad for your decisions. Tell your family that if they can't accept your choice and drop it, then they won't be speaking to you until their attitude changes. Refusing to take less hours at work even though my wife's alone with the sick kids all day? I 37M have been with my wife since our senior year in high school. We have 6 kids between the ages 7-15. I work Monday to Friday, 14 hours 3 days a week, 12-hour 2 days. My wife is a stay-at-home mom. Before I get the hate comments as I've seen in the past, I am extremely grateful. My days off, I take the kids out and my wife has the day to herself or she goes out and I handle chores. I always remind my wife, and take her out on date nights a few times a month on my days off. My sister comes by and helps out some days throughout the week. We had a financial crisis earlier this year, which resulted in me having these extra hours. It's completely necessary. 4 of our kids do extracurricular, we have to pay for and other necessities. My wife has recently been asking me to cut back hours, which has been causing arguments. It's simply impossible at the moment. We have young twins, and earlier this week they got the flu which spread all throughout our home, which had the kids home from school for majority of the week. I could not call off, but it left my wife extremely stressed out. One of our children has autism, and when they are sick it is a very big crisis in the house with tantrums. I felt horribly but I couldn't call off. Basically today my wife shouted at me for over an hour for refusing to take less hours, because she is so stressed. She said I get to escape at work, and she has a household to run. I tried to explain that I'd love more than anything to be home more but I couldn't, but she continued yelling saying I was the problem. Comment 1. Nah, but if your wife is in the hospital with a breakdown, that will require you to take off work and be a financial burden as well. Something needs to give. You may have to look at dropping the extracurricular activities you pay for and looking at free activities, going over your budget to see if there is any way for you to cut hours, otherwise maybe paying a sitter a few hours a week to give your wife a break, or a mother's helper so it's less expensive. Also, are you in the States? Have you looked into in-home therapies and respite for your autistic child through your state? Info. You mention a financial crisis, then mention extracurricular activities for 4 kids and other necessities. What was the crisis? What exactly increased in cost that you had to work these hours? Comment 2. Extracurriculars are not necessities. A burnt-out caregiver, to a kid with special needs, is a dangerous thing. She is asking you for help. You need to hear her op. Having 6 kids is so much work, and she's doing it alone essentially. She shouted at you for an hour. That lady doesn't have an hour to spare. That's how serious it is. Comment 3. I don't know, man. 66 hours a week doesn't sound like an escape to me. That sounds like hell. On your next day off, can you two sit down and go through your budget? Maybe you can work less hours if sacrifices are made in other areas and you both are willing to do that. But also going through the budget can also reinforce why you are working those additional hours, and it also can help you go over everything with a fine-tooth comb to be able to see, do you really need HBO Max? Obviously, just an example, and where else corners can be cut. NTA. Refusing to attend a wedding in another state with my 8-month-old baby? I, 35F, have been having a few tricky discussions with my husband, 35M, and his family over a wedding that's happening later this year. I don't want to go, but people keep telling me I should just deal with it and figure out a way. Let me give some background. The groom is my husband's cousin. They're not that close. They only see each other once every year or so at large family events and never keep in touch in between. The wedding is in another state and we'd need to catch a plane there as it's too far to drive. We received an invitation, and we heard through the grapevine that we could bring our baby. My gut instinct told me, double-check with the bride. I didn't want to commit the faux pas of bringing a baby to a wedding if it was not what the bride wanted. And sure enough, when we emailed her, she replied and said very clearly, sorry, it's a baby-free wedding. Of course that's fine, it's her choice. Her special day. So we replied and told them that husband would attend alone as I would have to stay at home with the baby. He's 8 months old and still breastfeeding, so I can't just leave him back home easily. Not long after we sent the RSVP about me not coming, several people contacted us, including the bride and groom, trying to persuade us to go. Apparently now they'd changed their minds and the baby could now come to the wedding since they wanted me there too. I told my husband I didn't want to go. Even though the bride had done a 180 on the no baby rule, I still felt he was too young to attend and it would be too difficult to go interstate. I'd probably spend half if not most of the wedding absent, due to nursing, baby making noises and babbling during the ceremony, and of course bedtime at 7:30 p.m. In my opinion, this is too much hassle for a short amount of family time. But my husband is upset and really wants us to make the effort, and I'm starting to feel like I'm being unreasonable for putting my foot down and saying it was too hard. Comment 1. NTA, you do not want to go, and you have valid reasons why. Just tell your husband he can go alone, but you will not be attending. You are not being unreasonable. And in any case it will save on flights, and if he asks, a relative could put him up for a couple of nights, saving money on hotels as well. Comment 2. Nah. We attended my Bill's wedding when our youngest was 20 months and took them with us. In hindsight we wished we hadn't bothered, as although I managed the ceremony and dinner I was basically out for everything else, as the baby needed nap/fed/ was grumpy from being overstimulated with so many people.